think most of you are familiar and knowing him since last few days, or might be knowing prior to that also. So sir is having a very rich experience in this field. Uh, so he's discussing about computer forensics with you. They will be discussing with few case studies also. So I think this session will also be fruitful for all of you in your research works or in your project works. So now I welcome Dr. Pankaj Bhamri for this session. So now I also hope that you will enjoy this session. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Singla sir, for the kind words. So in this session, we will share the issues related to the computer forensic. It is not a new concern that is evolved, that is to be discussed for the first time. Some of the previous speakers in the keynote talk of Mr. Sanjay Sharma, in the talk of Dr. Animesh Mukherjee for the hate speech dynamics in social media, and Professor A.S. Murthy. So he has already elaborated the concerns related to the computer forensics. But this concept is not discussed with reference to its from the very scratch. That is how it has been evolved, or what are its domain, and how it could be applied, and what are the methods. What the tools are already being shared. The open source tools are already shared with by one of the expert, Professor A.S. Murthy. The concept related to the forensic accountant has already been elaborated by Dr. Haresh Bharat. So I was interested to have the discussion related to the computer forensics elaboration before this talk, but the schedule was not being finalized with the expert. So that's why we have to modify the schedule. So before we could proceed further, let me share some of the issues that we are facing as an organizing team related to your attendance of the participants. So in the first day, some of the candidates, some of the participants were willing to interact. So particularly with this session, we have covered half of the course contents. So we are in the middle of this short-term training program for the completion process. So first of all, I want to spare some of the minutes to have the interactive session related to your issues, related to the concerns that you are facing. Also, through the feedback, a good quantitative as well as the qualitative measurement has been attained, and we are working upon it. Some of the concerns are very much appropriate, but some of the issues were not relevant to this STTP. So that specifies that the focus upon the contents or the seriousness about this course is required to be maximized. So I have attained the opportunity to interact with the candidates and to share the concern related to the attendance as well as the evaluation test to be put at the end of the course, so as to qualify the individual participants to attain the participation certificate. So first of all, related to the attendance, when we have, as it is already conveyed among all the participants, that attendance is automatically being availed from the Zoom interface. So first of all, the registration process was performed. The participants have registered themselves through a particular email ID. So when in the morning we have verified those attendance, so they were very limited number of the registered candidates. So some of the candidates are attending the sessions regularly, but not to the registered email address. So we are having the primary key, that is the primitive information, can be attained through your email ID only related to your attendance, related to in which sessions you are participating. So if you are not attending the sessions through the registered email ID, then it is not being reflected with reference to your name or another secondary information. So this is the limitation that we have faced. So with reference to that, if you are registering from another email ID, you are being suggested to inform the organizing team through the specific email address that is already shared with you, that is cybersec.gndc@gmail.com. So you should convey if you are regularly interacting, you are joining the sessions through another email address. So in the evening, we will share the complete attendance of all the participants. And as it is 50% of the course content has already been passed, if the candidate attendance score is simply 0, then in no way, through no way, he or she could be able to get eligible for the participation certificate. So if up to now the attendance is 0, if the attendance is limited, then what are the reasons we collectively have to work upon it? Either you are facing some troubles with reference to joining the sessions through your registered email ID or some another issues. So this is the concern. And for the evaluation test, as it is being conveyed in the information brochure, that the test would be availed through the number of the sessions, through the contents of the number of sessions that are being already held. So like I have received the information in the chat box that some separate email address was used for the login session. So every participant is advised, suggested to use the same email address. That is the registered email address during the registration, but which particular email ID you have used. So same email ID is advised to get utilized for the registration. If not possible, if not you are using or you have already used, so just inform us which particular single email ID you will use for the current or the number of incoming sessions. So we need a particular email address so that to identify your attendance criteria. So we will share, again I am repeating, we will share all the specific attendance attained by the participants in today's evening. So presently I am unmuting all the participants. If anyone want to communicate before the start of this session, then he or she may. So through the chat box, some of the participants are interacting that some registered email address was used at the later stage. So it will be fine. But which particular email address that is already used, that is also required, that is also the essential component to consider your attendance. Evaluation criteria has been asked. So it will be the multiple choice question, no negative marking would be there. So it will be the limited number of the questions, that what I do suppose 20 questions would be there, multiple choice question, and each carries the equal mark that I do propose because presently we have not covered all the sessions. So we have to design the particular MCQs. So, but as per the AICTE guidelines, individual participant is eligible to get the participation certificate for any AICTE sponsored course if he or she qualifies at least 80% attendance criteria and minimum 60% of the evaluation test to be conducted at the end of the program. So this is the evaluation criteria. About the sharing of the PPTs. So PPTs are not being shared by the experts because of it is the effort of the huge number of dedicated years in their profession. But as we are sharing the recordings, so you can utilize those facilities. Regarding the recordings of the yesterday and the today sessions, we are in the uploading process, and up to the evening you will get those recordings on the YouTube channel as well. So is not being viable as we have asked the experts, so that was not being viable. Examination to be conducted on Diwali, can we shift this? Yes, we have received the remarks, we have received the suggestions from some of the participants that on this festival season, the evaluation test should be avoided or should be postponed. So we are proposing to conduct this test on Monday. So is it fine to everyone? I will convey you the time. Most probably it will be 10 a.m. 10 a.m. of the Monday for the conduct of this evaluation test, and that will be conducted through the Google form. The link will be shared among all of you. So anything more that you want to interact for or you want to suggest among all the participants?
Good morning. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon,
Sir, I am audible.
sir. Yes,
Sir, I want to ask. On first day, I used my GNDC email, and from second day onward, I used my registered email. Is it quite fine now? I have to mail somewhere.
the problem is there that the primary criteria for the attendance that we do have on the Zoom platform is only the email address. If you are modifying, then it is specifying the attendance for some another fellow. For example, one time you have used X domain, another time you have used the Y domain. So we are having the attendance for two different people on the different days. So just convey us which domains you are utilizing. We will merge all those domains to identify the address, to mark the attendance for a particular fellow.
So, sir, what I have to do now?
So just drop the email, which particular email addresses you are using for the logins.
Here or sir, you have
No, just drop the email at the email address specified over the brochure, that is cybersec.gndc@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, as per the next query in the chat box, you will definitely get all the video recordings on the YouTube. Any other query? Okay, fine. So let's start the talk of today's session, that is about the computer forensics. So I have taught this subject 3 times to my undergraduate students, and I like this particular course contents as it is having the evolving features, and it is the need of the hour. That is, I do prefer this course to be interdisciplinary because it is not with reference to some designing of the unique algorithms or the procedures or the a prescribed number of steps to be followed up, but everyone, specifically during this COVID-19 scenario, everyone is bonded or restricted to utilize the internet facilities more extensively with reference to used in the previous number of the days. So it was this cyber security, or with reference to the computer forensics, it is not with reference to only the computer professionals, but they are being utilized in every domain. Either you are doing some limited task, that is simply you are dropping the email, simply you are doing some particular application installation, you are simply downloading some unique files from any applications. So you are daily or in routine activities, you are utilizing the internet facilities. So definitely some cyber related concerns or some issues or threats or vulnerabilities that do occur with the concern of the networks. So everyone, whatever the domain individual is working, so it is being utilized and applied everywhere. So with the concern of the forensics and the cyber, so they are not the different issues, but they are interlinked with each other. So whenever we are working to utilize or transmit any information over the network, so a threat do occur. So as in the previous number of the sessions, the cryptography the cryptography technique has been specified. In the similar way, forensic accounting has been elaborated. So, but I do focus upon what is the computer forensics. Computer forensics refers that we need some investigations to be performed, and those investigations should be able to produce some legal outcomes. That is, we have to defend ourselves within the court, within the judicial, regarding some criminal-based activities has been, or suspect-related activities has been occurred. So, if some criminal activities do happen upon your machine whenever you are doing some your routine activities or upon the network, so on that time the forensic investigation is required to be evolved, and some suggested number of procedures are required to be performed for the identification of sporting credentials, so that we would be able to defend our case in legalized terms. So with reference to that, cyber security is mapped along with computer forensics. Along with it, we can attach the issues related to the criminal laws, cyber crime laws that do vary from one constituent, one nation, or one geographic domain from one to another. So today, my concern of the talk is related to the computer forensics. So let's start the topic of the day. So computer forensic is simply the application of computer investigations and analysis techniques in the interest of determining the potential legal evidences. So ultimately, with the adoption of various procedures, number of the steps or the techniques, ultimately we want to generate this. What is the outcome? Outcome of the computer forensic is to generate the legal evidences. So as we have to defend it in the court of justice. So forensic, it is a process of using the scientific knowledge for collecting, analyzing, and presenting the evidences to the court, whereas the forensic mean itself, that is to bring to the court. And the forensic deals primarily with the recovery and analysis of the latent evidences, because whenever we have to analyze all the computer related contents, so it is not so easy that we would be able to track it in a comfortable or convenient way. We have to practice, we have to keep some precautionary measures. So ultimately, they are the professionals. Some of the universities do offer the courses in the cyber crimes and the forensics. So like there was a professor of Dr. Harish Barot. He's working in the he's working as associate professor at Gujarat Forensic University, Gandhinagar, Ahmedabad. So some of the, this is the university that do offer the different courses in the domain of computer forensics and the cyber security. So there are the dedicated computer forensic team members that are doing their task with the suggested procedures. But there is no universal way that every time we have to follow the same number of the steps, because the number of the cases may vary from one to another. So I want to inquire, are you able to see the screen of my system? Is my PC machine screen is visible? No. Okay. Just hold. Now, is it visible? Please specify through the chat. Fine. So I have identified some of the case studies related to the cyber crimes and the forensic issues that are the solutions for the crimes that do happen at the different locations. So that's why I do say that it is not only the computer, computer forensic or the cyber crime. This particular contents or the curriculum is not specifically for the computer professionals, but it is a interdisciplinary course that anyone can do the practice upon it while getting the appropriate certification and the exposure upon the different courses in this domain. So there are these are some media clippings that are identified, that you do identify in day routine activities. So for example, OLX, Facebook frauds on rise. So for example, there is a next news, पहले से भी अधिक हाईटेक हुए cyber criminals. So next is two persons have lost 1 lakh each to the cyber criminals. Next is related to the online theft that has occurred over the 48 payment applications. So multiple SIM cards were being utilized for these thefts. So next is the news related to the wife of the current Chief Minister of Punjab. That is 1 lakh on each day for 3 days were targeted, and thereafter the criminal was identified. So thereafter, after downloading the link, so the theft has occurred. The money was being shifted. So next news. So there are plenty number of the news that we do identify, and definitely if there is a problem, then the appropriate solution is being desired. And how the solutions could be designed or implemented with the upliftment of the skills, desired skill set for the individual to resolve such certain issues. So women, next media coverage is related to woman has ordered 800 rupee kurta and lost 80,000. KYC and FASTag updates has created this cybercrime issues. So for the just 20 days, 2,300 websites were used for the theft by the cyber criminals, and this is the related to the COVID issues. That is, the fake oximeter apps are used in the latest scenario for the theft, for the cyber crimes. So what do they perform? Like it has been suggested, do not load down any application claiming to check your oxygen, sugar, or the blood pressure level using your phone. So there are plenty number of the applications which are being suggesting, that is through the online mode you would be able to check your oxygen or the pulse level of your body. And these applications may ask you to keep your thumb or the finger and copy the same. As you are aware of the biometric notions, so they are able to fetch your information, your biometric values, and they are being further connected to your Aadhaar card or the bank account, and many innocent people could be looted with these mischievous activities. So innocent people are losing the money from their bank accounts. So these are the multiple media clips. So that's why uh, the relation of the cyber crimes and forensic, it is being attached to the need of everyone. So I have introduced from this slide. So I have defined the computer forensics and where it is being utilized. Forensic deals primarily with the recovery and analysis of the latent evidences. So it is not with reference to generation some new or novel information out of it is related to that we are what the information that has been left behind, we have to scrutinize it appropriately, and a limited mistake can totally destroy the complete analysis process. So you may be aware of some Arushi Hatyakand, that was the case of the Noida. So in the Arushi murder case, the culprit was not being identified. Still, it is being believed. Why so? Because at that time, when the investigation has been initiated, the major issues related to the identification of significant evidences, they were mistakenly destroyed. So, with the appropriate forensic investigations, we have to keep check what to do, not to do. So latent evidences can take many forms, from fingerprint left on the window, that was the case related to the Arushi murder case, left on the window, and DNA evidences recovered from the blood stains to the files on a hard
இன்னைக்கே
drive.
முடிஞ்சிரும் மதியம். எனக்கு 41 வரைக்கும் வந்திருக்கு. அப்புறம் ரெண்டு
So because the computer forensic is a new discipline, there is limited standardization and consistency across the various courts and the industries. So forensic is defined as a discipline that combines the elements of law and computer science to collect and analyze the data from the computer system, networks, wireless communications, and the storage devices in a way that is admissible as evidence in the court of law. So why it is important from technical standpoint, the main goal of the forensic is to identify, collect, preserve, and analyze the data in a way that preserves the integrity of the evidences collected so it can be used effectively in a legal platform. So it is not the individually, as I have specified, not the computer specialized or or only the programmer that would be able to helpful for the forensic investigations, but there are the different law enforcement attorneys along with the computer specialized persons that are assisting for the various tasks being performed in the forensic investigations. They are doing their job. So what kind of the job they do? So that are the another part that we will discuss. So in academia, the collaborating units could be the computer science, criminal justice, law, accounting, and the finance. So yesterday, this content related to the accounting and finance, it was covered by Dr. Harish Broth. So, but what the computer science person have to do, what are the number of the suggested ways for the investigation process in the forensic, so that are required to be performed. So that is my topic. That is my major concern of this session. So needs of the computer forensic, that is to produce the evidence in the court that can lead to the punishment of the actual, to ensure the integrity of the computer system, and to focus on the response of high-tech offenses started to intervene. So what are the general methodology or the number of the steps which are required to be followed up if such kind of the crime do happen on the machine? I'm not concerning right here on the network, but simply remove the various components of the system. Sometimes it is being suggested to shut down, sometimes it is not suggested. So it do vary from one case to another. That is the first point. Shut down for the computer. For the thereafter, document the hardware configuration of the system, transport the computer system to a secure location, make bitstream backup of the hard disk and the floppy disk, mathematically verify data on all the storage devices, document the system date and the time, make a list of the key search words. So in meanwhile, the chain of custody is being performed. So what are the configuration, who is being responsible upon it, how the progress has been performed upon the existing hardware and the software. Either some changes has been occurred during the investigation, this is a big fault that do happen mostly in most of the times. So ultimately, if we do identify upon the success of computer forensic investigations, they do limit it because precautions or the suggested way are not being followed up. So in the next number of the way, in the suggested way, evaluate the Windows web file, evaluate file slack, evaluate unallocated space, search files, file slack, unallocated space for the keywords, document file names, date and the times, identify file, program and the storage anomalies, evaluate program functionality and document your findings. As we are discussing right here, that ultimately the forensic team is producing some evidences that are required to be produced in the court of law, and it is not so easy in the form that would be easily accepted by the court. So some suggested tools are required to be used only, and ultimately how would you be able to correlate to attach your document of finding. So it is the teamwork that ultimately the attorneys, ultimately the computer specialist people, they work together to generate the findings, and it is required to be helpful because in the soft computing, in the with reference to some documented letters or the papers, some documented papers, the evidence is sustained for a longer while. So ultimately, if it is a signed document, if it is printed, ultimately the code do accept it comparatively easily with reference to the soft copies that are being originated. So if in the code you simply produce the IP addresses, simply you produces the number of the networks or the hosts that were active at a particular times, or if you propose a suspect that has installed a particular application, it is not an authentic way. It is not being acceptable in the court of law for the significant finding. So ultimately, this is a very crucial concern. That is ultimately, if you are being satisfied that this is the source of evidence, but you should be able equal to make it a legal document to defend your findings. So application of the computer forensics, mostly it is used for the concerns related to the securing evidences in the criminal and civil litigations, including terrorism, child pornography, industrial espionage, and documenting investigation a breach of the network security and recovering inadvertently deleted data. So we use the computer forensic in the law enforcement, that is to recover the deleted files. For example, whenever we need to find some specific evidences related to the crime. So we have to identify what are the slack files, what are the system files that they are modifying, they are changing some of the existing contents, or some malicious attacks, either they are being still feasible via the network. So ultimately, we have to keep a strict observation related to if the contents has been deleted. So either we are able to recover it while using some open source tool that are being discussed in the previous session, or we are able to design some new applications, or we are able to utilize some practices upon the existing platform so that we would be able to recover the deleted files like the documents, graphics, and the photos. We should be able to perform the searching upon the unallocated space for the hard drive where the abundance of data often resides. We should be able to perform the tracing of artifacts, that is the TD bits of data left behind the operating system, processing the hidden files, running a string search for the email when no email client is obvious, as well as performing the employer safeguard program. So what does it suggest? So it is suggesting some ways. For example, the employee who is not working perfectly, he or she leaves the organization and afterwards blames the employer with various reasons, that is he has left or she has left the job for a particular reasons. So employer safeguard program do suggest or identify which kind of the activities the employee was being involved with the with tracking all these certain activities. So it is being deployed in most of the reputed organizations to keep a vigilant check upon the numerous activities the employee is involved with. So computer forensic services includes the data seizure, data duplication preservation, data recovery, document searches, media conversion, expert witness of the services. So it is being suggested to use the professional forensic methodology because it may seem very easy whenever the investigation is required to be performed with reference to the previous slide. That is, these are the easy number of the steps that the individual, any computer professional or any computer literate person would be able to perform. But it is being suggested to utilize the services of the professional team because in such way, no possible evidence could be damaged, destroyed, or otherwise compromised by the procedures used to investigate the computer. No possible computer virus is introduced to the subject of the computer during the analysis of the process. Extracted and possibly relevant evidence is properly handled and protected from later mechanical or electromagnetic damage, and a continued chain of custody is established and maintained, and business operations are affected if possible. Most of the times it is being avoided. So they are being affected for a limited period of time. So what the computer specialist person or the computer forensic specialist perform in the number of the steps, what they do. So first of all, they protect the computer system for the forensic examination from any possible alterations, damages, data corruptions, or the virus introduction. They discover all the files on the subject system. They recover all the discovered deleted files, reveal the contents of the hidden files, access the contents of protected or encrypted files, analyze all possibly relevant data found in a special area of disk, print out an overall analysis of the subject in the computer system, and provide an opinion of the system layout, that is the file structure discovered, any discovered data, or the authorship information. So these are the number of the steps or how the computer specialist people perform the various jobs. There are numerous computer forensic tools which are implemented in the form of various software suites. So the software suite is a comprehensive set of the features from beginning to the completion. And these features includes the ability to acquire and process, conduct searches, generate reports. So ultimately, in the forensic investigation, these are the three important issues that are required to be performed. So there are some specialized software tools using which we are able to identify some hidden contents or text in a picture file. So no software is being viable until and unless we do identify what kind of the hardware it is currently having. So if it is a bulky software, we do introduce upon a limited configuration of the hardware, ultimately we would not be able to get the better results. So we have to identify the appropriate hardware needs. So the forensic software demands the better processing power, better memory size, and the better disk space. So there are the different workstations having extra bays and the additional ports to support the software requirements. And there could be some special equipments in the form of the write blockers. So write blockers, they prevent the operating system for writing over the evidence drive. So as well as they perform very large capacity storage operations, bit by bit copy. So whenever we have to keep a replica, it is not simply the copy operation that would be performed from one file to another. So bit by bit copy of the image that is being desired. So many software tools exist to recover the deleted files and find the keywords and other data of interest. So example is InCase. InCase is one of the most very popular and powerful tools available. So Professor Murthy has already elaborated and given the demonstration related to the open source tools. And this is one of the YouTube link. Otherwise, if the tools were not being elaborated or discussed in details, then we have to discuss about these softwares in details with the practice sessions. Otherwise, you can note down this link. It is being available at the YouTube site. So these are some of the another tools, forensic tools, which are being available. So they are having the certain features. So why a particular tool is required to be used. So next slide demonstrates the requirement or the specific features. Next is because of the limited available time period, I am not discussing these features in details. But with having the interest, you can identify or practicize yourself. So cyber forensic technology, there are the two different distinct components that do exist. Firstly, the computer forensics. So computer forensic is comparatively easy with reference to the second concern, which deals with attaining the evidences from the computer media seized at the crime scene. So principal concerns with the computer forensic involve imaging the storage media, recovering the deleted files, searching Slack and the free space, and preserving the collected information for litigation purposes. So several computer forensic tools are available for the investigators. Second component, which is comparatively tough with reference to the computer forensic, it is a network forensic. It is more technical challenges are there, and it involves gathering the digital evidence which is distributed across the large scale or the complex network. So often this evidence is transient in nature and is not preserved with the permanent storage media. So if the crime do happen, if some issues or some significant measurement that is required to be identified over the network, as in the today's talk, Dr. Ankit Jain has shared. So over the network, if some limitations or some criminal or the sports are required to be identified, so ultimately over the network, it is not, there is no certain hard disk upon which we would be able to track the measurements of network. So it is comparatively more complex to deploy as well as to get the results in the form of network forensics. So in the battle against the malicious hackers, investigators must perform the cyber forensic functions in support of the various objectives. Okay. So these objectives include the timely cyber attacks, containments, perpetrator locations, identification, damage mitigation, and recovery intimation in the case of the crippled yet still functioning networks. And standard intrusion analysis include the examination of many sources of the data evidence, that is the intrusion detection system logs, firewall. Sorry for the interruption. Yes. So there are the various services available. For example, lost password and the file recovery, location and retrieval of the deleted hidden files, file email decryption, email supervision authentication, threatening email traced to the source. So with reference to that, Professor Murthy has elaborated the demonstration related to the email theft or while identifying the actual sender and the receiver. So computer users policy supervision, remote PC, networking monitor, tracking locations, stolen electronic files, honeypot sting operations, location identify the unauthorized software users, theft recovery software for laptop and PC, investigative and security software creation, protection from the hackers and the viruses. So these are the various forensic services. So as it is an interdisciplinary curriculum that we are conducting in the form of STTP. So there are some tips or the suggestions to avoid the computer virus, Trojan, worms, So what the suggestions are there? So don't open the attachment sent with the junk email or the email from the person you don't know. So don't open any file attached to an email if a subject line is questionable or unexpected. So disable the Windows scripting host. So recently the Microsoft introduced macro programming language into the core of the Windows and Internet Explorer browsers. Also it is further revised, which allows Visual Basic scripts to run without the need of the specialist software. So although this can make your computer easier to use, being able to program shortcuts or use third-party Visual Basic scripts, so it is also a security risk. So a typical PC does not need a Windows scripting host to function correctly, and it should be safe to disable it. To remove Windows scripting host from your computer, open up your control panel and select Add Remove Programs icon and select the Windows Setup tab. Double tap the accessory section and untick the box next to the Windows scripting host. So always download the files from the well-known establishment and the trusted sites. So if you find any of the executable file, so until and unless you are aware of its source, don't execute upon your machine. So always know the source of attachment of the file. Install the antivirus. It will scan any file or the attachment you will get over the internet for the known viruses. The program will warn you if virus is detected, but it is not the 100% security way, that is with the firewalls or the antivirus. So they are not securing your machine 100%, because ultimately the kind of the viruses or the worms, they are being evolved. They are modifying its structure from one one phenomena to the another concern. To correctly configure the antivirus software so that it performs the design, so that it performs as designed. And in improperly configured antivirus software can be as good as no software. If your antivirus has an automatic virus scanning feature, keep this feature activated. Backup your files on a regular basis. If virus destroys your files, at least you can replace with your backup copy. So backup is not suggested to be there on the same machine. So you should store your backup copy in a separate location from your working files. So educate yourself about the latest virus. Many websites keep a list of all the old new viruses. Right, protect all your systems and software diskettes. So you can easily pick up the virus from the insecure network and introduce, for example, if you do login at any Wi-Fi, so ultimately it may halt your security. So if you are in a network environment and you get infected reports the virus to your system administrator, who can then determine the source of infection, and it will ensure that the virus is not spread out. So there is a concern related to this spyware and the adware. Again, Professor Murthy has elaborated it in detail. So I will discuss a minor concern related to this spyware adware. So spyware is the internet jargon for advertising supported software. It is a way of shareware authors to make money from products other than by selling it to the users. And advertising companies also install additional tracking software on your machine, which continuously calling home using your internet connection to report statistical data to the mothership. So they are attaining the information that what the activities you are performing, they are being performed in the form of your interest in the case of the adware, as well as they are performing some spying operations, so in the form of spyware. So although the spying, if through the any application or through any browser that is being performed, it is not an illegal type of the software. But we should be very vigilant to identify while using the net facilities upon different networks, upon different hardwares. So there are certain issues that a privacy-oriented user may object to, or therefore prefer not to use the product. There also may be PC surveillance tool that allows a user to monitor all kind of the activities on a computer, ranging from the keystroke capture, snapshots, email logging, chat logging, or just about everything else. So these tools are often designed for the parents, businesses, and similar environments, but can easily abused if they are installed at your computer without your information or the consent. Next concern is related to the data recovery. So data recovery is another significant process that if you have lost some significant information, how would you be able to how will you be able to attain those significant issues? So data recovery, it is a process in which the highly trained engineers uh, can evaluate and extract data from the damaged media and return it into the intact form, that is, it could be regained. So many people, even the expert, computer expert, failed to recognize the data recovery as an opinion during the data crisis. So it is a very significant process. That is, if some of the information has been moved, erased, deleted, or hidden, so we would be able to recover those contents. So it is the purpose of the data backup and recovery. So backups is simply the concern. That is what the significant files or the folders or the secret information is there. You should be able to attain its backup at some another location, not in the workable scenarios. So there are certainly the obstacles or the limitations that do occur while performing the backup of backup facilities. So the first one is the backup window. So backup window, it is the period of the time when the backup can be executed. So the backup window is generally timed to occur during the non-production period when the network bandwidth or the CPU utilization is limited or low. So many organizations nowadays conduct operations 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, effectively eliminating the traditional backup windows altogether. So ultimately, this is the backup obstacle. That is why the organization do avoid to keep the backup, because they are unable to identify which particular time period they should utilize for the backup facilities, because otherwise their rest of the resources are being halted at that period. So next concern is the network bandwidth. So many companies nowadays have more data to protect that can be transported across the existing local area network and the wide area network. So if a network can't handle the impact of transporting hundreds of gigabytes of data over a short period of the time, so the organization's centralized backup strategy is not viable. So if there is a limited bandwidth, so definitely this is a shortcome to have the backup facility. So system throughput. So there are basically three input output bottlenecks that are commonly found in the traditional backup schemes. So these are, that is the ability of the system being backed up to push the data to the backup server, the ability of the backup server to accept the data from multiple systems simultaneously, and the available throughput of the tape devices onto the data to get it moved. So another limitation for the backup is lack of resources. So many companies fail to make the appropriate investment in the data protection until it is too late. So many organizations presume that is such kind of a fraud would never be able to occur in their setup. So their organization setup is too much secured. None kind of the vulnerability is there, and it is totally safe. So there is no need to have additional resources in the form of the backup. So often the IT managers choose not to allocate the funding of centralized data protection because of the competing demands resulting from emerging issues such as the electronic commerce, intranet applications, and the other technologies. So due to the limited or number of the resources, the organizations do behave that ultimately they don't need to sustain the backups. So these are the numerous reasons for the backup facilities. That's why the backup is being avoided by many organizations. So there is a many factors that affect the backup facilities in the data recovery. So first one is storage costs are decreasing. So nowadays, with reference to the previous number of the decades, so how much expensive is there? It is very inexpensive to invest upon the memory, various kind of the memory devices to be used for the backup facilities. Second is, one is systems have to be online continuously. Third one is the role of the backup has been changed. That is, now the backup includes the responsibility for recovering the user errors and ensuring that good data has been saved and quickly restored. Next slide, evidence collection and the data seizure. So why to collect the evidences? Evidence can be very expensive to collect. That is, this process is very strict, exhaustive, and the system affected may be unavailable for the regular use for the long period of time, and analysis of the data collected must be performed. So why to bother for collecting the evidence in the first place? There are two major reasons. First one is the future prevention. So in the future prevention, without knowing what happened, you have no hope for even being able to stop someone else from doing it again. So it would be analogous to not fixing the lock on your door after someone broke in. So even though from the compromises is much higher. So both in the monetary and the corporate image terms. So second one is the responsibility. Who is being responsible? There are two responsible parties after an attack. That is the attacker, and second one is the victim. So the attacker is the responsible for the damage done, and the only way to bring him justice is to is possible with adequate evidence to prove his actions. So the victim on the other side has the responsibility to the community, and the information gathered after compromise can be examined and used by the others to prevent further attacks. The victim may also be the legal obligations to perform an analysis of evidence collection. For instance, if an attack on their system was part of the large attack. So there are the kind of the evidences. The evidences okay. So there are the types of evidences. First one is testimonial evidence. For example, it is evidence supplied by the witness. So this type of evidence is subject to the perceived reliability of the information about the witness. But as long as the witness can be considered reliable, testimonials evidence can almost be as powerful as the real evidence. So word processor document written by the witness may be considered as a testimonial. Second one, kind of the type of the evidence is hearsay. For example, that is not the witness. That is, for example, I have listened about it. It may be presumed. So it is mass of the assumptions. For example, मैंने सुना ऐसा हो सकता है. या अगर, for example, if there is a personal issues that do exist, so because of which it is being presumed this fellow is a particular suspect. So hearsay is any evidence presented by a person who was not a direct witness. So word processor document written by someone else without the knowledge of the direct incidents, without the direct knowledge of the incident are the hearsay. So there are the various rules of evidence. If evidence is required to be produced and it is required to be justified, it is a appropriate and right evidence, then what it should incorporate? It should be admissible. That is, the evidence must be able to be used in court of law. It should be authentic. It should be complete in nature. It should be reliable. It should be believable. That is, we should be able to believe it with the minimized handling and the corruption of the original data, account of any changes, and keep detailed log of your actions with the chain of custody details. Uh, it should not having some presumed or fake information. So it should be complete in every such kind of information. It should be reliable and believable. So these are the certain features that are desired in the form of the rules of the evidences. So general procedures being performed. First is identification of evidence, that we must be able to distinguish between what is the evidence, what is the junk data. So 99.999% would be the junk data. Very minimal will be the evidence or the actual data that is required to be produced in the court. So ultimately, there should be the preservation of the evidence. That is, any change made during the preservation, if it is not documented properly, if it is not justified, if it is not produced in the court, that ultimately you have kept all the significant or the suggested procedures to preserve the data or the hardware properly. So it is not accepted as a right or the evidence in the court. So preservation is a very much significant issue for the general procedure of evidence collection. Analysis of the evidence, that is, the stored evidence must be analyzed to extract the relevant information and to recreate the chain of the evidences. And presentation of evidence, that is, the manner of the presentation is important, and it must be understood by a layman to be effective, and it should remain technically correct and credible. So there are various collection steps. So the collection steps refers, that is, first of all, find the evidence, thereafter find the relevant data. That is, how would you be able to make it fruitable? That is, until and unless you attach the appropriate unit or appropriate scene, so the data is totally vague. So thereafter, create an order of volatility, that is, the information that is being preserved with reference to the volatility of the storage media. So as you may also already being aware with reference to the volatility. So in the computer system, we use the register, cache, routing tables, the ARP cache, the process tables, kernel statistics, main memory, temporary file storage, secondary memory, router configuration, network topologies. So they do vary. So create the order of the volatility with reference to which is more volatile. So we will have to give it more priority with reference to the evidence collections. So remove the external avenues of the change. No further changes during the chain of the custody or during investigation process would be viable either by this system software or any application software. So collect the evidences and document everything. So next concern is related to the duplication and preservation of the digital evidences. So electromagnetic and the planted destructive Trojan horse programs are the other hazards that can permanently destroy the computer evidences within seconds. So there are the list of numerous scientific evidences standards. These standards are easily accepted by the courts, and some of the evidences include the relevance test, the PRI test, the Copilino test standard, the Marks standard, the Daubert standard. So these are the authentic standards or the procedures using which the testing strategies are acceptable. So it includes preserving the digital crime scene. So ultimately, what do we expect? That no changes should occur. So what the scenario is has been there. So no further changes should be viable upon it. Excuse me. So preserving the digital crime scene refers that ultimately no changes do occur before the forensic investigations in the right process could be initiated. For example, the bitstream backups are much more thorough than the standard backups, and they involve the copying of the every bit of the data on a storage device. And it is recommended that 2 such copies to be made of the original when hard disk drives are involved. So computer evidence processing steps involve what we have already shared, related starting from shut down the computers, document hardware configuration, transport the computer system to secure location, make bitstream backups, mathematically authenticate data on all storage devices, document the system date and time. So these number of the steps we have already discussed. Next is the legal aspects of collecting and preserving the computer forensics. So some of the most common reasons for improper evidence collection are the poorly written policies, lack of an established incident response plan, and lack of incident response training, and a broken chain of the custody. For the purpose of this legal aspects, we should presume that the policies have been clearly defined and reviewed by the legal counsel, and incident response plan is in place, and the necessary personnel have been properly trained. So a chain of custody, it is a roadmap that shows how the evidence was collected, analyzed, preserved in order to present it as evidence in the court. So uh, while preserving the chain of the custody, no information should be added or modified. A complete copy is required to be performed, is required to be made, and a reliable copying process is required to be used, and all media is required to be secured. So the legal requirements include, for example, when evidence is collected, certain legal requirements is essentially required to be performed. And these legal requirements are vast, complex, and vary from one country to another. So it should also include the evidence collection procedures, their storage and the analysis of the appropriate data, and ultimately thereafter we would be able to perform the next step of computer image verification and authentication. So here the protection takes the 2 forms, that is a secure method for determining that data has not been altered by even a single bit since the copy was taken, and a secure method of determining that the copy is genuine, the one taken at a time and on computer in question. For this purpose, these elements are collectively known in the form of digital image verification and authentication protocols. So user benefit from various software accountabilities because it has been known, it is already known who published the software and the code has not been tampered with. So in extreme case, the software perform unacceptable and malicious activities on their computers. Users can pursue recourse against these publishers. So in the computer image verification authentication, uh, what changes that has occurred? So ultimately that are required to be mapped properly. Reconstructing the past events, it should be viable. And over the networks, the last topic, because of the limited time, I'm not expanding it too much. Uh, so in the last of the term related to the network, ultimately it is related to the network forensics. We have to consider all certain issues while performing or transforming the data while over the local area network and the wide area network. So here I'm sharing the frequently asked questions related to the forensics. So for example, if some kind of the crime has happened, so for example, what is the best time to contact the forensic company? So as soon as possible. So preservation of the evidence is the key. So which industries does the computer forensic deal with? So it deals with all the concerns related to the legal, healthcare, government, transportation, high tech, and the pharmaceuticals. So for example, as the employer safeguard program related to that, for example, the query is there, an employee departs the company and a few later or less, the company notice a drastic drop in the sales or uh, or its clients. So it happens to most of the organizations. So in the right here, the solution is forensic specialized can acquire and analyze the hard drive of the evidences of the communication with the departed client about moving to the new company, and they can also determine if the files such as the client list were copied to removable media or emailed through the corporate or web-based emails. So next is why hire a computer forensic company or the investigator? For example, the individual, as the number of the steps, they are very general in nature. So any layman can do understand, but deployment is a separate concern. But to get experience, to get appropriate result in the form of the evidences, this is the very tough task. So why to hire the computer forensic? First, if you want to be sure that your case is not spoiled due to the technicalities like faulty or improper acquisition that do happen most of the times. So if the acquisition of the significant information is not good enough, then ultimately your whole of the project is destroyed. So here, what is the project and what is the result? The appropriate legal evidences that are required to be generated. So that is being that is the error, that is the unexpected result that are attained. And most of the forensic investigation are being destroyed due to the improper acquisition, tampering, and poor handling and storage of the evidences. If it is an important enough to go to the court, it is important enough to have the properly trained professionals handle your evidence so that it is admissible in the court. Many states have the specific requirements regarding the acquisition, imaging, and investigation of the electronic evidences because it is easy to tamper with. So these states require that the forensic image is created by a state licensed principal investigator. If this procedure is not handled properly, your case can be dismissed before they can get a shot at presenting it. So what type of the electronic data is considered as evidence? For example, the email, web mail, it is not the hard copies, but in the form of soft copies, what we have to produce in the form of the significant evidences in the court. So the plain text or the documents or the images, calendar files, contact files, databases, spreadsheets, data faxes, audio files, video files, websites, computer application, viruses, and the spyware. These are the outcomes of the forensic investigation. So these are the number of the documents that could be produced in the court in the form of for the specific criminal justice. So do I pay for the services if the evidence I'm looking is not found? For if you have hired the forensic team, definitely you will have to pay for it. Either the specific evidences has been generated out of it or not. So what is the chain of the custody? So chain of custody helps to maintain the evidentiary status by documenting who has been in contact with the evidence, when, where, and why. So it includes information such as the username, location of the device, date, time of the removal, type of the device, model, and the serial number, who removed the device, where. So these are the documented contents that are being placed during transmission or shifting of the significant hardware software from one party or one person to another. So there are the numerous number of the courses which are being offered by the various organizations. So in nowadays, because of its essence, the cybersecurity with reference to computer networks as well as the computer forensics in the form of the elective chain, they are being offered to many undergraduate, postgraduate students, but dedicated courses for these domains are being offered by some of the organizations as listed over the PPT. You can track some another number of the organizations within India, like National Forensic University at Gandhinagar. So these are the references that I have followed up for the for this talk. Major set of the contents were taken from the first reference. So another references were being followed for another set of for the rest of the topics. So this was all about for the today's talk. Dear participants, if you have any query or either drop in the chat box. Okay, the screen was not visible for a moment. There was a network problem, that's why the screen was not working for a limited while. Okay, thank you very much. So I close the today's talk by now, and we will meet on tomorrow at 9:30. I will share the attendance of all participants in the WhatsApp group in today evening. Thank you very much.